Thank you so much for coming out tonight. So let's talk about the origins of Marcel the Shell, which I remember as a shorts. I used to be a shorts programmer for LA Film Festival, so I remember this short very well. Came out in 2010. I think you played Sundance in 2011. Mm-hmm. Where did the original idea for Marcel come from?
It's one of those classic things where when you're not trying to create something, you're just having fun, it blossoms into something unexpected. A friend had asked me to create a video for his stand-up comedy show when I lived in New York. That was just a local live stand-up show. And I had forgotten until like the day before. Jenny had been doing this little voice that became Marcel's voice. And changed very little, like from what you hear now, because we were sharing a hotel room for our friend's wedding with 5 other people, and she felt very cramped and was like doing this tiny voice to express like how cramped she felt. So with like one day to make this video, I was like, oh God, can I interview you? I'm gonna like make an animation or whatever. And then I think like went to the craft store, bought supplies, mocked something up, mocked a character up, and like animated it and edited it and screened it within like 48 hours.
So, and it's 3 minutes, right? The original is 3 minutes?
The originals, yes.
And so did you already know how to do animation? Had you done an animated film before?
No, if you've seen the first short, you can tell I don't know how to animate.
How long does a 3 minute stop motion animation take?
Kirsten could probably answer the question better than me, but for me, I mean, the original Marcel was like a solid block, so he didn't have any points of articulation at all, so that could be done like kind of quickly, but it ranges depending on the complexity.
So, you made 3 Marcel shorts and 2 books, mm-hmm. And so from 2010 to now, what was happening in between? Just life. How did Nick and Kirsten come on? Did you always envision doing a feature version of this? Was that something that took a while to sort of figure out?
I had always envisioned doing a feature version of this, but Jenny and I were like very green when the short came out, and it sort of blew up on the internet. And we took a lot of meetings at like big studios and networks, but it was very clear. Like one of them recommended that we partner him with Ryan Reynolds and they fight crime. And it was like, it just was very clear that they were interested in kind of grafting Marcel onto a more familiar like tentpole franchise.
Marcel could be part of the MCU right now?
That's right.
You really sad you turned that down?
Yeah. Well, then when I saw Detective Pikachu, I was like, we got pitched Detective Pikachu.
Oh my God. I want to ask you because, Marcel, the first short went viral. And I know that Kirsten had the same experience with her film High Stranger. I don't know if you guys seen the amazing High Stranger. It will haunt me for the rest of my life. I wanted to know, because I've never heard anybody talk about it, what happens for you when something goes viral? Do like people just start calling and trying to get meetings with you? Does anything real happen?
I don't know what your experience was. The internet has changed so much since Marcel went viral that I don't... Yeah. I think, Kirsten, you might have had like the last video to go organically viral, the last short film.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, for me, I definitely got meetings. But the funny thing, I don't know if you had the same experience, but like the funny thing for me is like a lot of people wrongly assume that like you go viral and somehow that equates to like instant money.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't get any money for a viral
Totally.
movie. I just like got meetings, which could eventually translate into money once you do more work, for those people or whatever. But yeah.
I think I'm one of the people that thinks as soon as you go viral, it just translates into cash coming in the
cool. Those views,
coming
that's
in the
dollars,
mail.
awesome.
Yeah. I guess like it might for some people. Like I know like TikTok influencers make money on sponsored content, but
then you gotta make sponsored content.
You gotta make sponsored content.
Yeah.
I think probably Kirsten and I, if you have a career in mind that you want to pursue, and then something goes viral that's not really in your wheelhouse, then you don't make a lot of money because you're like, nah, I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah. It's like that guy on the skateboard who's like drinking the orange juice to the Stevie Nicks song.
Yeah.
Is he a millionaire right now?
Is
he a billionaire? So
Fleetwood Mac.
I interrupted you answering my own question, which was, how did this eventually go from being a short to a feature? So go ahead.
Okay, so we had those original meetings, and they were just like, okay, this is obviously not the process. It's not how we made it. We're not going to be able to, as like newbies to Hollywood, like be able to make a movie that we actually like this way. And I certainly felt like we were going to have to like, it might be a longer. We said no to all those offers, and I think it was the right choice ultimately. But at the time, it wasn't clear it was the right choice. But we were just like, okay, so we're going to have to like do this from the ground up and meet the right people, both like. Creatively and financially to make the movie that was clear to me at least and to Jenny I think too was supposed to be like the Marcel movie that really was like a portrait of him that really treated him with dignity and took him seriously and wasn't trying to like blow it out and have him go like save Paris or whatever.
I mean, and I came on also in like 2014. So I will say, like in that
Yes,
in that time between,
Wow.
like there wasn't that, I think you
Not
guys
much of
like,
a gap.
there's not
No.
much of a gap. Like we've been working on this for a really long time.
That's totally true.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, my impression is that any kind of animation, but especially stop motion animation, takes a hell of a long time. So, how long from when so with stop motion, when you sit down to write a script, how is that different than if you were just sort of like writing a regular movie with all humans in it?
Well, you have a lot more control with animation because you can record audio, write a scene, record the audio, edit the scene, and then be like, oh, it's not very good. And then you can re-record it, which is great, but it's a nightmare also. And we worked on the audio play for 3 years
That's also why it took
before
so
we
long. Not
animated
even-
a single frame.
Yeah, before we got to animation.
We were sort of simultaneously writing and recording audio and eventually doing storyboards, me and Kirsten like drawing frames. And so
Wow.
it was this like soup of content that Nick and I both come from editing. We met as like editors on a very weird TV show. And sorry, that made it sound like it was like
It's not porn.
it's not porn. And so we were editing probably as much as we were writing and like doing all these kind of other things that were made up the brain trust sort of.
Yeah.
The show's Broad City, isn't it?
What's that?
No.
It's not Broad City.
Yeah, what's the weird show?
Nick, worked on Broad City.
Oh, yeah, it's not Broad City. No,
Oh,
it was
okay.
it's a stoner puppet cooking show called called Food Party. It was on IFC for 1 minute.
I didn't know this.
Oh, it's a great show.
Everybody's
We
looking that-
highly recommend it.
Everybody's looking that up on their phones right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good.
So you spent 3 years just recording the audio, and then you were ready to animate, and then
Not so fast.
Please slow down. We have 7 years to walk through step by step.
oh, okay. And then also the pandemic's in there. This is going to take a long time, you guys. I hope you brought a snack.
I think it breaks down to like 3 years of writing and recording audio. Then we were like, cool, this movie works. Oh, we had already done the storyboard, so we had an animatic.
Yeah.
Then it was a year and a half to shoot the live action portions and get Leslie Stahl involved and create a live action movie that was just missing like basically the central characters. And then we went into animation production.
Yeah. So we shot the movie twice. So it's like live action shoot
Yeah.
and then animation shoot. And you're basically like every shot where Marcel is in it, you're shooting that scene twice. Once for plates and then once for animation. And it was like a year apart.
Yeah.
And are you, as director, present for all the animation shooting, or do you sort of let them go off on their own to do that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
I was present for all the animation shooting, but I don't know how other directors do it. I hear that's...
Yeah, you were probably more involved than I think most directors would be. I mean, I thought it was amazing. Like Dean and I went into every single stage and met, like the both of us met with the animators, and like even before that happened, like we would talk through every single shot and like kind
We
of
had
act
4
it out.
years of it.
Yeah, yeah. First we did it in storyboards, and then we did it like actually on the stages before we got in there. We would like shoot little videos, like reference videos for animators, or we would. And part of that was even just us figuring out, okay, what exactly needs to happen in this scene, and you have to be like super, super clear and direct with what you want with the animators as well, because it's like most of the time you get one shot, like one take. We didn't have a lot of time to do more than one take a lot of times. And a take takes all day for an animator, so you really don't want to have them just aimlessly doing something that's not right. Yeah. So we really meticulously planned out like every subtle little look and everything, and then would just communicate that to animators on stages. Yeah.
There's a whole cut of this movie that exists on our laptops that is just me and Kirsten acting out all the roles.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that really fun one that you posted recently where it's like you being Connie and me being Marcel, and literally just the acting is like just me being like, and like that's it. Yeah. It's like super subtle, you know, a lot of the performances.
I mean, and I was new to, I'd done those like very crude animations, but basically new to animation when this process began. And you realize that it's actually not so different from directing actors, except that you have the opportunity to sort of give an animator, for example, a reference of facial expression. So a lot of the time, you know, it's like, every blink, every kind of subtle movement on your face can be something that they can take a cue from, and like, that's where the energy goes down. That's where he takes a breath. All those minute things.
Yeah. Things as small as like planning out exactly where the blink should go was really. I mean, because he doesn't have much. He has an eye that blinks and he has feet, you know. So there's like not much else you can do. So like we were really, really meticulous about like where those things should go and what plays best to comedy and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like it takes like the ultimate level of patience to do this. You guys are very zen.
How many frames does it take for you to know that an animator is wandering off in the wrong direction? like how many frames can you be like, no? Is it?
I don't know. Hard to totally quantify it. Right. I mean, we do have like things called cutbacks, which we would try to avoid doing. Like instead of doing a whole retake, sometimes, you know, you go in for a check-in maybe after a few hours on an important shot, and then you take a peek at that point. It's a delicate balance of like, you don't want to piss animators off, you know. I mean, I'm an animator. I wouldn't want someone checking in me every hour, be like, show me what you have now, show me what you have. Like, well, I only did 12 more frames in this hour, you know. Yeah. So it's like, you know, giving enough time that like you can actually see something that has some sort of shape to it, and then, you know, knowing like, if it's really, I usually know if it's like, okay, that's not what we wanted, and then you know, you can just do a little cutback, which is not a retake, but you just cut back a few frames enough that you can kind of send it in the other direction, and it smoothly works.
I can say from sort of a quasi outsider perspective that like Kirsten has an eye for that way before I do, because I think animators are like seeing the Matrix all the time.
Kind of, yeah.
They're like, that step forward there means he's going to have to circle all the way back around later.
Oh,
in the
right.
shot or whatever.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Like chess, you're seeing 7 moves ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you have to kind of have this like, I've never took physics, but I have an understanding of physics and the way things move in a way where like you can break it down on a frame by frame basis and understand like, oh, just one more frame of anticipation before you go forward is going to give you something funny. Whereas like, if you didn't have that anticipation, it would look robotic. And it's like sometimes a matter of like 1 or 2 frames completely changes the performance.
The real feat to me of this movie, I'm sorry, we've been talking for so long.
No, I'm.
Is that okay?
We're getting real nerdy into the animation.
You came here to tell how the movie was made, and you are. So I find it fascinating.
Okay, cool. I hope you guys.
And also, I just know how incredibly difficult it is to make a movie like this, and congratulations to you guys because it worked so well. It's such a great.
Thank you.
I'm so curious. I want to ask about Isabella Rossellini, but I want to ask you about A24 because, and they're here. They can probably confirm. Is this the first kid-friendly A24 movie?
I think it might be.
Other than The Witch, yes.
Kids love The Witch so much.
A lot of people at A24 have been saying to me, it's so nice I can show my mom this movie. Finally, I can show her what we do for once.
Yeah.
Well, they're not up here to tell why they chose this, but you guys can you guys talk about how, from your perspective, how A24?
Why they chose it?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
they're just like, we're going in another
got great
direction.
taste.
We're not doing body horror.
I don't know. I mean, I think that they are. I know they've been sort of branded as like horror or whatever, but they actually, I feel like maybe don't get enough credit for like, you know, the other ones that are like, they don't fall into that niche, so they're maybe less.
Like eighth grade.
8th grade or Minari or mid '90s or like you know Moonlight.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot about 8th grade.
But I think that their branding, the way that they've branded themselves, like really helps them, you know, support a movie like ours that maybe wouldn't cross over from the sort of whatever we were in, like art sphere or whatever, into art house, into the mainstream, and I think that is what defines a lot of their movies, or what they're really great at.
Isabella,
Yeah.
whose idea was it to cast? She was so perfect for this.
So good.
Has she ever done voiceover work before for a movie?
I'm sure she's done some voiceover.
We didn't consider it if we didn't know that she
We didn't
had
know
when
about
we.
She, we knew that she was an artistic kook, and that we wanted to build a character around her. But partly, I'm like, the fact that she's so perfect for this is because she's who she is, and Nick and I got to write a character around what was great about her. She really does live on a farm that she maintains with help, and like actually, has livestock. She has a master's in animal.
I saw your video you posted of her bee sting. That was amazing. I watched it like 10 times.
Her Instagram is amazing.
Yes,
She posted a video. Did she really get stung by a bee?
I guess.
Oh yeah.
She's posted a
not
video
promotion
where
for the
she's
film.
like putting her face into the camera. She's like, "Look how puffy this side of my face is compared to."
My favorite Instagram video of hers is she's driving in her car and she looks so delighted and she's got her head out the window and then she cries out like she's like a war cry and then she turns the camera and there's a rooster and she's like in some sort of jousting situation with the rooster in her car and she's just having a ball. It's amazing.
She did a bizarre show on IFC once too. Wasn't it called Eco Porn?
Green porno.
Porn.
Green porno.
So good
right.
if you haven't seen it.
Yes.
For those who haven't seen it, it's her dressing up as different insects and illustrating their mating rituals.
Right. Yes.
It's a classic. I can't remember what all my questions are. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the character is, so Nick and I sort of had the amazing privilege of being able to write the character around. So Nanakani existed and the plot was generally the same, but there was so much detail and specificity that she brought to it that we then, because of our weird, we would write and edit for a few months and then record for a couple days and then write and edit. Because of that, we got to write around what we found so great about her as a person.
She has a really wonderful grasp of nature that's not romanticizing it, but still revering its beauty. Its power. Yeah, its power is right. Yeah.
So you, Dean, are an important part of this. You play a version of yourself for this. Who directs you? If you're the director, who directs Dean?
I'm not really an actor, and I had always wondered that about directors who are in their own movies. I don't know, it's hard. Actually, there were 2 days when Leslie Stahl was on set that I brought Nick in to direct because I just knew I was going to be occupied with that, and so yeah, it's Nick.
It's me. That's the short answer.
Just pull in a guy off the street. What do you think of this?
It's a safe pair of hands.
Do you feel when you were writing this any pressure to deal with real world issues in the world of the film? Like any pressure to deal with the pandemic or any pressure to basically deal with
Animation.
pull in any issues?
Any what? Sorry.
Pull any real life
Yeah.
things going on in the world, politics.
Right. There was definitely a temptation to do that because, if you think about it, the last 7 years has been so, full of horrible things in the world and in our country that it was sort of hard not to a little bit because you're like, well, I guess I'll have a platform in 3 more years. Maybe I should say something about this. But ultimately, I think the better judgment was you can't be topical with something like this or animation. Animation like stop motion, you can with South Park or whatever, but something that takes this long, you have to sort of keep in mind that those issues or that conversation will be so changed by the time it comes out. I remember there was a conversation about putting doing something about kids in cages as part of the 60 Minutes piece that Leslie Stahl was doing, and it was sure, but
Whoa, that sounds
that
like a
come out-
terrible idea.
if that had come out now, you'd be like, what?
Kids in right.
Kids in cages.
I think
And next, Marcel the Shell.
the specificity of talking about something that's essential to human nature it's been really nice to have people see the movie and be like, this movie's about the pandemic. And we wrote it way before the pandemic and recorded most of the audio before the pandemic. And it's been a nice reminder that the most evergreen thing is personal experiences told with specificity, because then people can be like, that's my experience right now in the pandemic, or whenever people watch this.
Yeah, it's really interesting to me, the crossover in the themes in this with the pandemic, like loneliness, isolation, which you probably had written the script before everything happened in 2020, so you didn't know that was exactly going to happen.
We were shooting stop motion and got shut down in 2020. Like, we were well into it. Yeah. I mean, I remember the stop motion crew especially, like feeling so happy to be working on a project like this, because, you know, a lot of stuff in stop motion, it's like Robot Chicken, not to knock it, you know, it's cool in its own right, but like something like this, I feel like that has so much heart, doesn't come along every day, especially like in the stop motion sphere. So like, especially that crew, like I heard nothing but just like, I don't know, just wonderful constant gushing of like, this is like giving us so much hope through the pandemic. We're so happy to be working on this. Like, it has such a wonderful, you know, at the heart is such a wonderful, sincere character, and that was so special, even just for the people working on it. So that was really amazing to see. And, you know, the hope is like that people will, you know, will feel that as audiences as well.
Do you think there's going to be a Marcel the Shell sequel?
In 10 years.
A very Marcel Christmas special on CBS.
Right. I don't know. I mean, hopefully there's a market for it after the movie comes out. Hopefully it does well. I would love to further expand the world. I mean, I know, like, Kirsten and I, like the actual community members, we're sort of like, at least from a macro level, an afterthought, or like very done towards the end, where it was always like, yeah, he reunites with his community, that's the ending. But we only fleshed them out and like gave them specificity towards, you know, in the last like whatever couple years of production and
just the last final 3 years.
Just the last
squeaked it in.
Well, I'll be excited to interview you guys for the sequel in 17 years.
Yeah. That's right. But yeah, I think now I feel like, oh my gosh, there's this whole community here that we created. I want to know, like, what is Ghost Tampon up to? Like, what is what is Pencil Mouse?
Somebody saw that still I posted of Ghost Tampon and was like, haha, Ghost Tampon. They called it the same name that we've been calling it.
Ghost Tampon. So I have to admit, I thought that Marcel was a snail, and I didn't realize until he found his community, and there were all kinds of other animated, inanimate, like Tampon, Ghost Tampon. Yeah. I was like, oh, a shell. It's a shell. It was not meant to be something that was, even though it's freaking called Marcel the Shell.
Well, I didn't realize until like a couple years ago that he's actually not a seashell, he's a snail shell.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
because we were looking for family members.
Yeah,
I didn't know that till just now.
Yeah, see.
He's a snail shell?
Yeah.
He's a snail shell,
not a
seashell.
Wow.
I didn't.
We're open in minds.
Yeah. I didn't get the pun in the name of the Beatles until like I was 32.
Oh yeah, me either. And I also didn't understand in Wizard of Oz that her three uncles are Cowardly Lion, Tin Man.
Yeah. It was the same character.
I didn't realize that till I was an adult.
You might have facial blindness.
I don't think I want to tell anybody that I didn't know that. So there's some rumors going around Hollywood that this took so long to make because Marcel is such a diva.
Yeah.
Is that really true, or is he just a perfectionist?
Well, I'm actually not an animator. There's a real living shell, and we secretly filmed him. But don't tell anyone.
Don't tell him, or it'll really become a diva.
It's a real documentary.
So this is coming out this week, this Friday.
The premiere is this Saturday, and then it comes out in New York and LA on the 24th. So the following Friday. Next Friday is the answer to your question. Sorry.
Is it
next Thursday?
Day
actually.
and date?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thursday night.
Next Thursday night. I'm going next
Is it really
Thursday.
Thursday?
A week from tonight is the opening.
Theaters and will Marcel be at
Today's
the
Wednesday.
red carpet and opening night party?
I mean, he's got a tough agent, but I hope he'll show up.
Well, thank you so much for coming and talking
Thank you.
about this
Thank
film.
you so
It's
much.
fabulous.
Thank you guys for coming.
And thank you to all of you. Marcel the Shell
for
with
coming.
shoes on. Give it up again.
Tell everyone.
Thank you, and thank you to Film Independent, and thanks to you guys for all coming out to see our movie.
Yeah,
Means a
thank
lot.
you.